where that all starts is our defensive line, especially if we're talking about being in Philadelphia. Because, I mean, Howie, we believe in the trenches. Anytime we've been really good, which is, at least half the years over the past, couple of decades, we are going to be great in the trenches whenever it comes to offensive line and also defensive line. So we're always trying to get after the quarterback. And then there's no difference this year. So that's going to be where we start at whenever it comes to how successful this defense is going to be. And I think Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter understand that. Like, they understand that, hey, you guys are the guys whenever it comes to the defensive line. Like I said, I mean, we still got Josh Sweat, and then he had a bit of a down year last year in comparison to, the Super Bowl run whenever we had that tremendous amount of sacks that we had. Kellen, do me a favor and get those stats for me exactly on like how many sacks we had back in 2022, if you don't mind. But I know we were sitting there competing with I think it was the 85 Bears, and then how great they were and with their sacks that year and whatnot. And then, of course, that took us all the way to the Super Bowl. So I think that it's all still going to start with the defensive line. Shout out to Howie for having the foresight of knowing that we weren't going to get a contract done with Hassan Reddick. So let's go ahead and move up off of that and then try to get what we can. Obviously, we can see that that's the Jets' problem now. You know what I mean? So, like, that's not something that we have to deal with. Yes, and we had 70 sacks. It was 70 sacks in 22, a tremendous amount of sacks. So I think we took a really big plunge this past year in comparison. I think we had around 50 sacks or so. So it's like huge difference. So it's definitely going to start there more than anything. And then so with Jalen Carter and Jalen Davis, man, I'm sorry, Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter. Um, okay. So we had 64 sacks this past year. So in comparison to no, hold on, my bad, bro.
No, sorry.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
the
For
85.
the 85 Bears.
Yeah,
Okay,
the 85 Bears
so
at
we
65
passed them
sacks.
up technically.
Yeah.
Okay. I got you. All right. I don't know how you're gonna chop this, but I believe in you. But yeah, so we ended up with 70 sacks in 22 in comparison to the 64 sacks that the 85 Bears had. And a tremendous amount of sacks. I know we were playing one more game in comparison to the Bears at that time, but just being able to create that amount of pressure and get to the quarterback as much as we did, man, it was truly a big difference. So that's what it's going to take this year, because I think that's essentially always what it takes, especially when we're talking about playing in the playoffs or playing in the Super Bowl. Possibly, you're going to play some elite quarterbacks, and you're going to have to get them off their spot. You can't expect for us to beat a elite quarterback by giving him time back there to pass and dissect us. In all honesty, we've seen Dak do that a ton of times against us. I believe that Dak is not clutch whatsoever, but he always plays pretty well against the Eagles. And then a lot of times he'll just tear us apart if we can't get to him. And that's essentially what all elite quarterbacks will do. So getting those sacks is going to be imperative. And then so I do think that it is going to start with Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis. First off, Jalen Carter is a huge stud. I think his floor for this year is to be a Pro Bowler. Like he is that elite. The league really messed up by allowing us to get him in the draft last year. Man, that was really crazy. They allowed him to fall to us just a little bit, and we traded up to go get him. And that was one of the best decisions how we could have made. So I think with having him, but he only played at 563 snaps last year. And then last year, Christian Wilkins in Vic's system last year played 894 snaps. Man, you're looking at over 330 snaps more than what Jalen Carter played. And Jordan Davis only played 519. So, I mean, you're looking at almost 380 more snaps than what Jordan Davis played. So they have to be a lot more conditioned. They have to be there because we're going to need them to stop the run. We're going to have to try to put offenses in a predictable situation where they have to pass. Now our pass rushers can go ahead and just pin their ears back and get off to the quarterback. It's like you don't have to think about it as much. You can just go. It's like third and long. They obviously pass it. Let's go. So it's like putting ourselves in advantageous situations is what's going to make us successful. And then so those two guys being ready to go all year. Last year, it seemed like Jalen Carter kind of hit that rookie wall, which a lot of people hit because at the end of the day, this is the first time they've ever played this amount of games in a season. Normally in college, like even if we're talking about like with the college playoff and getting to the championship game and things like that, man, you might be looking at 14 games. You know what I mean? Maybe. So like it's normally not a ton of games, but they're talking about at least 17 games this year or every year. And if you get into the playoffs, you're looking at even more than that, potentially 20 games or so. So it's like it's understandable that he kind of hit that wall, but you were definitely expecting this year for that to not be the case. And with Jordan Davis, man, it was just him not being in shape. Because that was year 2 for him. He has mentioned multiple times this offseason that no one's coming to save them. Like they have a true understanding that, hey, we are the defensive line. This is who we have. And then it's funny to hear him say that phrase, or more so, it makes sense on why he keeps saying that, is because his rookie year was 22 whenever we went to the Super Bowl, and they literally brought in someone, two people actually. You had Linval Joseph and you had Ndamukong Suh. Like literally two DTs they brought in who were getting some time throughout their playoffs, getting us to that Super Bowl run as well. So, and I think a lot of the reasons why Howie had brought them in because of the fact that Jordan Davis wasn't really, kind of truly being what it is that we needed him to be just yet. Granted, he was a rookie, but he was a first round rookie, top 20 pick. So normally with those guys, you're expecting them to play. But I do think that his cardio was an issue then. It was kind of an issue last year. I still remember the play whenever he chased down Josh Allen and did his thing going to get him. Like great play. It's like, oh my gosh, bro, the dancing bear, he was moving. But I think there's a potential of us getting that amazing player, but also getting a guy who's like, he breathing, he's just leaning on guys, like taking a double team, and it's like, they kind of washed me out. Like that's if that's the guy that we're getting, then we got to make another move next year in the draft because it's like it's okay for you to be a decent player, but whenever you're drafting somebody's top 20 in the first round, you're hoping that you're drafting a Pro Bowler. You know what I mean? A perennial Pro Bowler, someone that you're going to see there very often or whatnot. Someone who can, and at the DT spot, if you draft them that high, you're hoping that they can rush the passer a little bit as well. And I think, man, he ran a 40 in the combine. I think he ran like a 4.8, but dude's like 340 pounds. like he is huge. I want to say he's like 6'6", 6'7", but he is huge. So it's like seeing him move that quick and him being that athletic is, I think, what led for us to draft him that high. So now we know you can stop the run because you're a big guy. You're going to plug up a hole for sure. But if you can stay in shape and have the energy all the way throughout the season, then it's like not only will you be stopping the run because you're going to plug those holes, but now you're going to move guys a little bit more. I think he needs to be in the top 15, top 20 whenever it comes to tackles for loss for us to like really be great. Like I have no doubt that Jalen Carter will make sure that he is top 10 in tackles for loss. I also think he's going to get anywhere from about 9 to 12 sacks from the interior spot. Like he is truly that dynamic. Like I was mentioning earlier, I think his floor, Jalen Carter we're talking about, I think his floor is Pro Bowl. Like I absolutely expect him to be an all pro as well this year. And I think he will be like top 5 in defensive player of the year. I do truly believe that he's that good. He is the new Aaron Donald. Like I think he's going to be one of the best DTs in the league this year. Like be excited about Jalen Carter because I know I am. But that's a little bit enough about the interior D-line, man. What are we going to do on the outsides? We allowed for Josh Sweat to have an opportunity to go out there and see if he can find a trade, and it doesn't look like we really had a market for him. So I don't know what exactly we're going to get from Josh Sweat, and I think that's going to be a huge question mark. We haven't heard a bunch of things throughout training camp. Like at least you want to hear a few flashes, and then I heard some a little bit more recently. But I'm also hearing a lot more whenever he's going up against the twos, more than against, Jordan Mailata and Lane Johnson. But also, I just named Jordan Mailata and Lane Johnson, So those are some of the best tackles that are in the league, man. Absolutely, especially the fact for Lane Johnson. I mean, that's an all-pro right there. So it's like it's tough, but iron sharpens iron. You know what I mean? So it's like you're not going to be going up against someone that's top 5 in their position every week. So I absolutely expect to see plays made by Bryce Huff and Josh Sweat. Excuse me. So because there's no reason for them to not be successful going up against someone this good every day. But we just got to see it. With Bryce Huff, he only played, what's that, 480 snaps. He played less than Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter. Yeah, he was on the Jets, so he wasn't on our team. But either way, it's like 480 snaps. You had Bradley Chubb in the Dolphins defense last year playing 836 snaps. Bro, that's almost double his snaps. Like that's a lot of snaps. Now, granted, here in Philly, we like to rotate our guys, especially on the defensive line. That's why we build in the trenches so much so we can keep guys fresh. But he's definitely going to be expected to play with a lot more than 480 snaps. Like that number should easily be well in the 600s, if not 700. It's going to be higher. So with that being the case, we need to see because he was mainly only doing third downs for the Jets. He was mainly just pass rushing. He led the Jets in sacks though. So he did his thing. I mean, for only playing 480 snaps, man, and then leading your team in sacks is tremendous. But now we got to make sure you can stop the run and also get after the quarterback. It was weird that he was actually like one of the only like presumed starters, especially on the defensive line that was playing in that second preseason game. And then, it looked a little weird because it's like, do they not really believe in him? Because mind you, in that second week, we were doing he did the what you call the practice, joint practice. Man, drawing a blank. But yeah, we did the joint practice with the Patriots. And then so normally they like to utilize our joint practice days as like really great competition for the ones. So the ones normally don't play at all in those preseason games. So the fact that he was out there, Vic talked about that the next day. And once again, gotta love Vic because he's gonna be blunt, he's gonna be honest. He said, man, honestly, we're getting him out there because he's playing a new position. He's not doing the exact same things that he was being asked to do when he was with the Jets. Now he's been asked to drop back. Now he's being asked to stop the run a lot more. It's like this is his way to show the team, the coaches that he can do this, and also just man for himself. You know what I mean? It's like because Bryce Huff had mentioned himself that he was glad he was able to get those reps and just kind of showcase what it is that he could do. So it didn't seem like he had a problem with doing it. So it was great to see, man, because like I said, Vic is an old school coach, and at the end of the day, bro, practice makes perfect. So I'm glad we was able to see him kind of being out there and doing it a little bit more, especially against the Patriots because they were playing their starters. So all the success he was having early on was actually against their ones. I know the Patriots aren't expected to be good, but it was still nice to see it. So I think, man, that's what we're looking at with the D line. I really hope Nolan Smith makes a really big jump. Okay, he's going to be one of our wild cards, I think, because if you get a great Nolan year, man, because Josh Sweat is in his last year. I mean, and I think Howie would have no problems with letting him go if Nolan takes that huge step up to where it's like, okay, perfect. This can be our guy, one of our cornerstone pass rushers going forward. I mean, at the end of the day, he was a first round pick. Yeah, it was towards the end of the first round of last year, but either way, first round pick. I mean, so last year wasn't the best year. He didn't play as much. He had a small percentage of the snaps for sure. Matter of fact, he only played 188 snaps last year, which is really nothing. He was kind of just getting in there in garbage time, especially towards the end of the year. But he had a sack, man. He showed some flashes. But this offseason, he's been showing a lot more flash. He's been getting to the quarterback a little bit more. So we're definitely going to see what comes with that. Same with Jalen Hunt being a third round pick. I think expectations are low, so you can't expect too much. But he's flashing a lot more than everyone was expecting. I think from what I was hearing or what I expected was that you're going to get a lot more highs and lows. It was coming from Houston Christian University. I mean, how many of y'all have heard of Houston Christian University? You know what I mean? So it's like that's the type of talent that he was playing against, but he balled. Here's my thing. If we're going to grab someone from a small school, make sure they were balling. You can't be playing average at a small school because it's like, all right, if you're just so there, what are you going to do against better talent? You know what I mean? So, like, if you are going to grab from those markets, from those schools, please make sure that they were dominating. And that was something that he was doing. So, I'm excited to see what he has because he looks a little bit less than like a project than I expected. I definitely thought it was going to be like a project. Like, okay, dude used to play safety. and he's transitioning to, I think he transitioned to linebacker, then it was defensive end. So it's like, wait, defensive end? He used to play safety? But it's great because you're bringing in that athleticism, and you can tell during the training camp games, I mean the preseason games, and also in training camp that he's dropping in coverage a lot from that outside rusher position, and he looks very fluid doing it, which he should. I mean, he was a safety, but just watching a guy that big from that spot dropping back with no problems is beautiful to see. Because most of the times, whenever you have a edge rusher, a la Bryce Huff, you're asking them to drop back. They're doing something they're not used to doing. You want me to go backwards? I'm used to going to get the quarterback. So like watching Jalix drop back and then have success with it, or even like whenever he is rushing the passer or whatnot, we've hearing in practice that he's getting to the quarterback. He's getting some presumed sacks. There's no touching the quarterback in practice, but he's getting the presumed sacks and things like that. So I think this year was supposed to be a project year for him. He might get a little bit more burned than expected, but I'm hoping that we can see him out there more than 188 snaps like Nolan played last year. It's like, get that man some burn. So I think if he is getting north of the 188, then that means we are actually getting a better return out of this third round pick than we expected. So I'm excited to see what the D line has to bring. Last, Milton Williams. I do think that Milton, this is his year. You know what I mean? He is in a contract year. I'm thinking that he probably does not want to sign for anything right now, just because I think he is trying to prove that he is legitimately a starter. And then in this defense, in that base formation, he is one of the starters. It's going to be Jordan Davis, Jalen Carden, Milton Williams as those interior three right there. So it's like, I want to see how well he does, because he's probably the guy that's coming off the field whenever we move to nickel, whenever we move to dime, because you still want to have your two edge rushers. You know what I mean? So if you're just doing four people, which, like we said, four down rush, that was 78% of the time. That was third most last year that Vic ran with four down linemen. So that's probably going to be Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis if he can get after the passer. If not, he'll be swapped out with Milton Williams, and then you're going to have those two edge rushers. So it's like we got to see what Jordan Davis does and also Milton Williams. I think those are going to be some important pieces right there in the middle. But man, after talking about the defensive line for about 25 minutes, I do want to kind of move on to the linebackers, man. Like this is obviously my bread and butter, and this is what I played, man. This is my group, and I think it's gonna make a huge difference. Last year, I would say we kind of punted whenever it came to the linebackers and whenever it came to the safeties. Like I think how we kind of he tried to move back a little bit more towards the mean this year in comparison to last year. I mean, I know we wanted to sign CJGJ, but the contract situation didn't really work out the way it did. So we pivoted. But either way, last year, man, whenever it came to linebacker and safety, those areas was just kind of like, hey, this will do. Let's see how it goes. And if you look at the 2 years that we went to the Super Bowl over these past 7 years, so back in 2017 and also 2022, we had good linebacker play and we had good safety play. So I think that's going to make a huge difference if we're talking about being successful. So like the linebackers we had in 2017, Jordan Hicks, Nigel Bradham, Michael Kendricks. Like, I mean, we had them dudes. Even Nate Gary coming off the bench, bro. Like we had guys playing linebacker and they were playing successfully. Like in 22, we had TJ Edwards and Kazir White. Matter of fact, Nakobe Dean barely even played in 22 because of the fact that how great TJ and Kazir were balling. And yeah, I'm naming two linebackers because, like Vic mentioned, we was in nickel most of the time anyway. We weren't running three linebackers. You know what I mean? It was like either we had four down linemen, the two linebackers, and then a nickel corner, or shoot, we was running the five set up front where it was the three DTs, the two outside edge rushers, and then so just the two linebackers in the middle. So with having those great linebacker play, that normally led to us stopping the run, getting 70 sacks. You know what I mean? So it's like as we stop in the run, and then we can play the pass, be able to pin your ears back and do everything. Like I truly believe that linebacker spot needs to be good. Last year we were below average. Those are some of the worst linebackers I've seen in the league. Matter of fact, one of the linebackers that we ended up with, We ended up getting him on our team. I want to say probably a week, maybe 2 weeks before our first game of the season, and then he was on the streets. I'm not saying he was, a trash man or nothing like that, but at the end of the day, he wasn't on anybody's team. He wasn't at anybody's camp, So it's like with having guys like that, with having guys that were maybe on the practice squad the year before, like I think the goal was okay with having the Kobe Dean, but this year he's going to step in and he's going to be the starter, and that was what was expected. But then he got hurt. So it's like as he got hurt, he didn't play as much. Now we're sitting there with a couple of linebackers who it was hard to win with. I mean, because at the end of the day, there was I need the linebackers from last year, Kevin. Yeah, but yeah, so like because one of the guys we brought in, he ended up retiring. We brought in two linebackers with a couple of weeks before the season started, and then one of them decided to retire. I think we had it was Miles Jack and then another guy. The other guy's the one who ended up playing all year, and he played decently.
You had Nicholas Morrow started 12
Yes,
games.
yes.
Yeah, Zach Cunningham started 10
Zach
games.
Cunningham. There we go. They had brought in Zach Cunningham and Miles Jack. Miles Jack and Zach Cunningham were brought in a couple of weeks before the season started. The competition was in between the two of them. We're going to see who was going to be starting. We thought essentially by Nakobe Dean. Nakobe Dean got hurt. Zach Morrow ended up being one of the people who stepped in that starting linebacker spot. Trash. Trash. He played basically all year, had a couple flashes here and there, but trash. They were terrible. And then the fact that, like I said, give me the other guy one more time.
It was Nicholas Morrow and Zach
Cunningham.
Cunningham.
Thank you. And then so Cunningham had flashes too. Howie even mentioned that he thought that Cunningham had a pretty good season at the end of last year. I don't know what he was watching, but what I like about Howie is he's not the type to be like, nope, nope, nope. This is what I decided. We're just gonna keep rocking with it, even though he see that it's going left. Because he did try to bring in Darius Leonard. Like I remember when we were competing with the Cowboys, and everybody was like, "All right, which team is he gonna pick? Which team is he gonna go to?" And let's be honest, he picked us, which was great. He was not the Darius Leonard of old. He came in and he was just as trash. But I like the fact that Howard realized that he made a mistake on that position and that he brought in somebody new, trying to improve it. No, it didn't end up working, but I like the effort. You know what I mean? Don't be stuck in your ways. Nope, this is what I decided. We're just going to rock with it. I hate that. If you see that the evidence changes, it's okay to change your opinion. So I see that we realized that this linebacker core is not good. So he tried to bring in somebody who we thought could possibly be good, and he was a little bit past his prime. I don't think he's with anybody this year. I don't know if he's retired officially yet, but he probably should. But this year, I think he's improved on that position. Not tremendously, but a little bit. Number one, you bring in my boy Devin White. So Devin White, man, he was amazing with LSU. Did his thing. Came right into the league with Tampa Bay. Was doing his thing. Him and Levante David over there was a tremendous linebacker core for about 3 years, and they won. They helped win that Super Bowl for Tom Brady. I think that whole playoff run you saw Devin White making plays, like whether it was an interception, tackle for loss, a sack, whatever it was, dude was making plays. Sideline to sideline speed is tremendous, and he's always looking to hit somebody. Always. That's exactly what you want from your linebacker, your middle linebacker specifically. You want someone who's a playmaker, you want someone who's a headhunter, and you want a leader. And I think he's all of those things. Obviously, he had a down year last year. He spoke about it a little bit earlier on whenever we first brought him in and he got interviewed and everything. And he talked about it was a contract year, but before then, he was expecting to get compensated. That's what the message was from the team and his conversations. And then all of a sudden, the conversation changed. And they were talking about how, well, you know what? I think we're just going to exercise, like your fifth year option instead of, like doing a contract or whatnot. And I think that really kind of threw him for a loop because that wasn't the conversation they were having early on. And then he had mentioned that this year he wants to focus more on football because he felt like he was more of an agent last year than a football player. So I think with that kind of threw off his focus, which kind of leads to, not playing as well. He also mentioned on the podcast The Pivot with Ryan Clark and them that he was hurt for a lot of the season. And then Todd Bowles came to him. He said Todd Bowles was like a father figure to him. But Todd mentioned to him that, hey, if you're hurt, man, we're gonna have to get you out of there, just because it's like I'm calling the defense expecting you to be able to do X, Y, and Z because that's what I know that you can do. But if you're limited, then you're gonna hurt us a little bit, because now you can't get to this play, or you're not gonna be able to get to this mark as expected, which is gonna, make us fall back as a defense. Because one of the phrases we used to always like to use while playing is do your 111. I mean, there's 11 players out there on defense, 11 players out there on offense. We will be the most successful when everybody does their job. When you try to overdo or you try to do somebody else's job and things like that, that's whenever we tend to mess up. Or if you're lacking and you can't even do your job, that's once again when the team messes up. It is literally the ultimate team game. So, with that being mentioned, White was like, okay, bet. So he stepped back, and then he'd even mentioned that some people in the organization was expecting him to come back a little bit faster than he was actually capable of, and things like that. So he felt like that kind of ruffled some feathers as well. So he was saying that, like, oh, whenever he got benched, it was more so that he was kind of hurt and things like that. So I just think that this is a comeback season for this guy. Like he is super excited to be with this team. He would like to be here long term, from what he had mentioned in one of the interviews. But of course, he doesn't want to focus on the contracts right now. He wants to focus on being great, and then letting that just kind of come to play later on. But he was mentioning that he wants to be one of those great Eagles linebackers that we used to have in the past. Like it's not, or he understands that the Eagles have not had that for a long time. Like he wants to be the Jeremiah Trotter Sr. Like he wants to be that guy that, like I said, we hadn't had. He wants to be those guys that we named off during those Super Bowl runs that we had. It's like he wants to be the catalyst of that. And I'm hoping that he can be. Like I'm very bullish on Devin White. I'm expecting him to have a great comeback year because we saw him dominate in college. We saw him coming into the league immediately dominating. I think he was came in around the same time as Fred Warner, who's been dominating for the 49ers. I think he has that same type of game to him. But of course, we need to see it consistently. He's been healthy so far, so I don't see a reason why he can't bring back what it was he was doing with Tampa Bay early on. So that is exactly what I'm expecting. I think he's going to be that guy. I think, like I mentioned earlier, our blitzes will go up, or Vic's blitzes will go up a little bit more, because that is something that he does pretty great. He's going to get up in there. He is going to put some pressure onto the quarterback. He's going to get through a lot of those blocks by the running back. I don't know. I think he's going to be really successful. I think the question is who's going to be playing beside him. So we've seen kind of early on into training camp that Zach Bond has been starting right beside him in both the preseason games. Excuse me. At a lot of the practices, he's running with the ones. So, and which was crazy because when Zach Bond came in, everyone was expecting him to be a pass rusher. That's mainly what he did whenever he was with New Orleans. And also, he didn't play as much last year anyway. I think Zach Bond's snaps, he played like 301 snaps. He was a backup for New Orleans or whatnot. And New Orleans wasn't that great last year. Their defense is normally decent, but I mean, they weren't amazing. They weren't even like gangbusters. So I mean, but either way, he was showing that he could pass rush and then play a little bit off ball. I think he played off ball linebacker more so in college, but we definitely thought he was going to be a pass rusher coming in. He has not gotten a snap at practice at the outside linebacker position. He hasn't pass rushed once. So Vic mentioned early on when he was asked about the linebackers, this is very early, and Zach Bond was one of the first people that he mentioned, saying that, well, I haven't seen any reason why he can't play the off ball linebacker position. He hasn't showed us that he couldn't. So I mean, we're going to continue to assume that he can until he shows that he can't. And he's been playing that position so much. But once the game started, the first thing I noticed in that first preseason game was he just wasn't making plays. It was like he was coming down to the line, just getting washed away, hitting the wrong gap maybe. Granted, no, I don't know what the play call is, but I can kind of see where the flow of the offense is going, where the defense should be flowing, what holes you should be flowing to. And it was like just seeing him take on the linebackers, I mean the offensive line and things like that. He just wasn't making the plays. And then I was seeing the holes being created for the running backs for them to bounce on out. Like literally the first drive of the first game, I was just like, against Baltimore. And they was definitely playing their twos and their threes. There was no Lamar, no starting offensive line, no King Henry. It was regular guys, and Bond did not look that great. And I was like, what is this? And then slowly but surely, we've seen Nakobe Dean become that Nakobe Dean we were hoping to see. And I tell you this, I would be shocked if Zach Bond wins that starting position over Nakobe Dean. What I'm thinking is happening right now is Nakobe Dean has been running with the twos so often because I think he's also technically like the backup Mike behind Devin White. So because normally they have one Mike and they have one Will. Even though, like I said, it's only two linebackers, and they're both in the middle. One's still a Mike, the other one is still a Will linebacker, which is like the weak side linebacker. But normally that Mike wears the green dot for us. So it's like they're the ones that are talking to the coaches, to the DC and everything like that, giving out the plays and everything, making sure the defensive line and the safeties and corners, everyone is on the same page with the play. And I think that Nakobe has been running with the twos in order for him to have the practice to do this. You know what I mean? Just in case, hey, you're not out there with Devin White. Devin White gets hurt or he's not playing, whatever. Give Nakobe that position to be able to still run that and do that. And I'm saying that to say, especially over these past couple of weeks, because right now we're looking at August 21st. When I say since August 7th, Nakobe Dean's name has been in every beat writer's mouth for making plays, man. We talking about tips, interceptions, tackles for loss, man, just hustling. Like when you watch him in the preseason games, man, he jumps off the tape. Like he jumps off the screen. You can just tell. I remember there was a play against the Patriots. All right, so bro's on a blitz. He gets back there, boom. He's right there in the quarterback's face, but quarterback gets the pass off. Mind you, he was in the backfield in front of the quarterback. Then he busts it out towards the sideline because it was like a screen pass to the right. He busts out to the sideline. First off, the running back or the receiver, whoever it was, he makes Bradbury miss, which is another topic that I will definitely touch. But he makes Bradbury miss, trash ass. He killing me. But he makes him miss. But then he also makes Jeremiah Trotter Jr. miss. And all of a sudden, Nakobe just comes in, cleans up the play. I think it was only like a 5-yard game. Of course, he trying to make a couple dudes miss. But Nakobe was just in the quarterback's face, like, creating that pressure. And then all of a sudden, hauls ass to the sideline and makes the tackle to clean it up. I'm like, okay, dude, this is what I'm talking about. Like, it reminds me of a lot of a play that I saw when he was in Georgia. Matter of fact, I think it was the championship game where he was like running down the sideline or running towards the sideline when it was like a receiver that was like in motion that got the ball and the dude was running with him. Like, I mean, a lot of times you talk to like you want to stay like within their inside hip so that way you don't give them a two-way go whenever you get to them. So that way if you stay inside, they can only go outside. So which is perfect. And that's exactly what he did. And he was looking so fast, man, because the dude he was trying to get to was a slot. And the slot receivers are normally super quick. I mean, sometimes they're going to be super fast, but most of the time they're always quick because they have two-way goes most of the time. So it's like the fact that he was running all the way over there, he was able to cut that off. That's exactly what I felt like we were going to be getting when we drafted him in the first place. So seeing him do it in the preseason game was magnificent, man. Chef's kiss, bro. I'm excited to see this. I'm thinking that we didn't see it the years before because he was hurt. And then also, like I said, his rookie year, we had Kaiser White and TJ Edwards balling. And I think we lost, 3 games that year, 4 games that year in 2022. So it's like we were doing a lot of winning. We were trying to make sure we got the first seed because, you only one team gets a bye in each conference. And I think that was important for us to get. And because of that, they weren't playing the young players like that, which I hate. And I wish we would have been able to see that a little bit more from him. But unfortunately, that was like a red shirt year for him his rookie year. And then last year he was hurt. think he only played in a few games. Man, he only had 182 snaps. Man, I want to say I think he played in like less than 6 games. So this is the year. You healthy for the most part during training camp. You're making plays. You're showing what you can do. And like I mentioned, whenever we were playing the Patriots that week, we had the joint practice. He was starting during the joint practice. It was him and it was Devin White, and he was balling. He was making plays. He was doing his thing. The question with Nakobe is still what he does in the pass game. That's not his best attribute, but he's great at stopping the run. He's kind of small, but he's a thumper. Like he reminds me a lot of like London Fletcher. Used to be number 59 for the Washington Redskins at the time. And he wore number 59 because he was only 5'9". So it was like a small, compact guy that's a thumper, and it's great because back then when London Fletcher was playing, it was like running. Like running backs were really big. Running backs were getting paid more than like a lot of the receivers at that time or whatnot. But now it's more of a finesse game. So like London Fletcher was 5'9", but he was super stocky. So Nakobe Dean is kind of small too, but he's slighter in build, but he's faster. And then I think that works a little bit better with them running so much spread, like to where we're only going to have, like I said, 2 linebackers in the game. It's not like 4-3 where it's like three backers back there, trying to stop the run as much. So it's like with him being a little bit smaller, I think he'll be able to move around a little bit better in space. But that's still our main question for him whenever he's like playing man. So I'm hoping we don't see him in too many man situations whenever we're on defense. I think we'd be better off utilizing him to blitz during the pass, or more so kind of playing in a zone, because I think he's very instinctive, very smart. He trusts his eyes, and normally the eyes are, going to tell you where the ball is going. And then the type of guy he is, he's extremely prepared, very much like Reed Blankenship. And I'll get to the safeties later, but those guys who kind of lack a little bit of athleticism, lack a little bit of size. I mean, that's kind of how I was, man. It was like I'm the undersized linebacker, and I wasn't super fast, but what I was instinctive. It was like I knew what was going on. And then by knowing ahead of time, you move faster. I react quicker. And those are the exact same things I think we're getting from Nakobe Dean. So Nakobe, taking off the way that he is, no way in the world, in my opinion, Zach Bond should be starting over him. So I think we're going to be having Nakobe Dean and Devin White at the linebacker spots, which is going to be exactly what it is that we need. That kind of gets us back to where we used to be. I don't think that we're going to have top 5, even top 10 linebacker core, but I think we can get in the top 15. Because last year I'm pretty sure we was probably 25th, 30th, 32, maybe the 32nd. We might have been last. Like the linebackers were terrible. So I think we're going to be good there. Don't forget, we also got Jeremiah Trotter Jr. He's shown flashes, but at the end of the day, he was a 5th-round pick. So the expectations, I think, should still be low. I don't expect him to be starting at any point this year. If he does, then it could be one or two things. Either these linebackers we just been talking about really did not pan out at all, or he's flashing a lot more than we expect, So, but I don't expect him to be starting. I do think he'll get a lot of playing time. He plays a lot of great special teams. So I think with great special teams play, we'll maybe get him a little bit more playing time to kind of get in from time to time. I'm hoping it doesn't end up being a year like it was for Nakobe his rookie year, where he just barely played really at all. So I'm hoping that he gets a little bit more playing time than Nakobe got his rookie year, but we'll definitely see. But I do think that the linebacker position is one where Howie noticed that, hey, last year I think we kind of punted on this, and we brought in a really crappy linebacker group. So let's improve on that. And I think we have.